All right, fantastic. Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Marcus and Mark. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Marcus. Good morning, everyone.
All right, today is November 1st. We just wrapped up October. Yesterday was Halloween, and today, November 1st. And oh boy, the markets are on fire. And we'll talk about this here in a moment. But first of all, let's see who here wants to make money with trading. Type in a yes in the chat box. Oh, yeah, exactly. Now, who here wants to make so much money with trading that you can travel the world and live the lifestyle you deserve? Absolutely, exactly. We want that for you. Now, let's see. How many of you want to get as much as possible out of our time together here today? Type in a yes in the chat box if you want that. Because, yes, we want that for you. Because for most of you here with us today, this is going to be a long term relationship between us. I promise you. Because once I show you how simple this is, and once we show you an easy way to trade, once you realize that you can do this too, and once you realize that this actually works, you will want to hang out with us for a lifetime. I promise you that. So let's take a look at the markets. As you know, in the upper row here, we have our three indices. In the upper left, we have the E-mini S&P, we have the Nasdaq in the middle, and we have the Dow in the right. Mark, look at this. The Dow this morning already up 129 points. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, impressive move in overnight trading, and it looks like we're off to a great start here. I didn't check, but I would assume that that puts the Dow at records too. I know that the S&P and Nasdaq have been making new records, so just impressive start.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really interesting. I mean, it's sparked by overseas move. I mean, Asia closed really strong. Europe is strong. And this is why we see here the US markets also going up. I believe that the Asian markets closed more than 2%. The European markets were up more than 1%. They were all trading between 1 and 2%. And this is what we see here. It's rather unusual because today we have the big day. We have the Fed meeting. And this is where the Fed will give us hints of what's going to happen. I mean, nobody's expecting anything drastic today, but probably some more cues about the interest rate hike that's coming in December, and also probably more guidance for 2018, right, Mark?
Yes, and I saw recently that the rate hike expectations for December have actually dropped. So it'll be interesting to see what the Fed statement says. At one point, traders were expecting an 80% chance that the Fed would raise in December, that no one's really expecting them to do anything this meeting. But then the question was, are we going to get one more rate hike this year, which was the plan anyway? And the probability was at 80%. I recently saw that that dropped back down to 65 or 66%. So it seems like traders are questioning things. I'm not sure if that has to do with President Trump and his announcement of the next Fed chair tomorrow. At least that's the plan. And right now it sounds like it will not be Fed Chair Janet Yellen. So we'll see what happens, but it will be an interesting afternoon for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have crude oil here, and crude oil also up this morning more than 1%. Now, yesterday was really interesting. We were probably in one of the longest Seahawk trades ever. As you know, right before Coffee with Marcus, we placed the Seahawk trade, and the trade has been going on for a whopping, Mark, what was it, 42 minutes?
Something like that. Yeah, that was a long one. And I will guarantee that it was the longest Seahawk for crude oil without any doubt in my mind. Maybe we've been stuck in the bond Seahawk that long before in the past, maybe, but for crude oil, that's a rarity.
Yeah, we'll see. So we have another trade in the market. It turned out to be a winning trade. So this morning, looking at crude oil trades here again, and thus far, crude oil is rather quiet, scratching the 55 mark here after it blew through 54 yesterday afternoon, and now in overnight trading. So the next stop here, 55, and this is exactly where we are trading right now. So we're trading crude oil according to our Seahawk strategy, and we'll see what happens here. Now, yesterday, Mark, here's what I did yesterday. So we can move this out of the way. And I want to bring up my notepad here. There we go. So yesterday, I asked a question and I said, what's your biggest challenge right now when it comes to trading? And I asked it for both beginners and advanced traders. I asked beginners and I said, okay, so if you're new to trading, what's holding you back? What is right now the biggest challenge where you say, yeah, you know what, I'm still confused. I don't want to trade live yet. And for experienced traders, this is where I said, okay, why exactly are you struggling? I mean, assuming that you are struggling, if not, good for you. But if you are struggling, okay, so why are you struggling? So this is what the question that I asked. And then we talked about a simulator yesterday, and it was fantastic. Now, you all typed in these questions, and I had Trixie compile some of the questions here because I wanted to go over the questions here in the next coffee with Markus. Now, there's a few things that I was surprised at when I was looking at the questions, and I just want to copy a few of the questions that came up here. Right in here. So one of the questions, so here are the questions that came up. One of the questions was, let me just see, I need to copy and then paste. So somebody said, the biggest challenge is making money in trades. Well, okay, I can see that. You see, here's one of the problems with the question. What exactly is your problem? I mean, Mark, when you look at the question, do you understand what this trader is struggling with? Oh, well, I might have lost Mark. Okay. Anyhow, so all right, I'll continue without Mark here for a moment. You see, this is where it is so important that you are asking not only us but also yourself precise questions. Because here, I mean, maybe you're struggling finding the right market. Maybe you're struggling with the entry. Maybe you're struggling with the exit. I mean, what could it be? So another one that I received. Another question was this. Somebody said, my biggest challenge right now is that the markets are too random. Okay. So my question to you is, so what? What does it mean? Does this mean that right now you do not know how to approach the markets? I mean, what exactly is it? So then I received another question here, and I'm just picking a few questions because I want to show you something really important there. Okay, so somebody says, trying to get the results is a bit challenging. Okay. And I believe that you already get where I'm going with this. So the better the question, the better the answer. Okay. So this is where, for example, let's see, there were a few great questions here. As an example, well, not really. Show you another example. I would love to go through a sell to open trade. This one confuses me. So, okay, so let me ask you this, whoever asked the question here. So, if right now we show you how to sell to open, this means that you will now be wildly profitable. Is that the case? Because this is what I'm getting at. Why are you struggling? If we could solve one thing for you, what would that be? And see, the one thing, this needs to be the one thing that is holding you back, right? And this is where, with these questions here, I was really, really surprised that you asked so general questions. And I see that right now there's a few more questions coming in. And I'll ask Trixie to put them on the spreadsheet here for me, because that's what we want to do over the next few days. We do want to answer all your questions here. But you see, if you're asking a question and say, the biggest challenge is making money in trades, I mean, this doesn't help us. Okay, so what exactly are you struggling with? Okay, so this is where here, the better the questions, the better the answer. Okay, and this is not only for us, it's also for yourself, because here's what our brain does. Our brain wants to answer questions. So, and what I personally do, you see, regularly, I write questions down on a blank piece of paper, just one question, and then I'll keep writing and my brain will find the answer. Because you would be surprised, most of the answers are inside us. And sometimes when I'm writing all this, I also realized, oh my gosh, I need some help with this. And then I'm asking myself, okay, who can I ask for help in this matter? Now, when I'm asking somebody for help, I never say, oh, please help me with trading, because it's too general. Okay. What exactly is it that you need? And this is why right now I see that there's fantastic questions coming in there. So you're getting the concept. Um, let's see, because I want to bring up a few questions here. Okay, so somebody said, for example, I love it. My account is still losing, and I'm struggling with trading, struggling with exit. Okay, so let's talk about this one here, because I want to. Oh, and it says end entry. Okay, I want to use this here as an example, because I believe that this applies to probably many of you. So here's a question. So let's drill down. So the question is, struggling with exit. Okay. Well, it's not really a question. So this is a statement that you made. And Juliet, I'm using your name, right? I mean, we're all friends here. So Juliet, because I want to talk to you, because again, what you're asking here applies to many. So I'll use you as an example here, if that's okay with you. So struggling with exit, what does it mean? What exactly is your question? So you say it then a little bit later here in the chat, and I appreciate that you're playing along with me here. So the interaction is great. This where you also say an entry. Okay, so let's turn this into a question. Okay, so then you're saying a little bit later, and again, Juliet, fantastic. Thanks for participating here. So you said how to choose entry and exit. Okay, so this is one of your questions. Can you be more precise? First of all, Juliet, what exactly are you trading? Are you day trading? Are you swing trading? Are you trading stocks? Are you trading options? What exactly do you do? Okay, and when you look back at your trading log, okay, so great. So Juliet says day trading with equities. Okay, so that's stock with stocks, day trading stocks. Okay, fantastic. So let me ask you this, especially when day trading stocks, one of the important things is how to find the right stocks, and the right stocks are the stocks that are moving. So is this where you got it down? So you're finding the right stocks that are moving? Is this what you already got down? Because we want to make sure that we're really focusing on the right question here. See, day trading stocks, and the first thing here is, okay, that you should ask yourself is how to find the best stocks for day trading. Okay, now when you talk about how to find the best stocks about day trading, you want to find stocks that have volatility. Now, volatility means stocks that are moving. You don't want a stock that is being stuck in a 30-cent range all day, right? I mean, this wouldn't help you. Now, secondly, another thing that you want to do, you want to make sure that there is enough volume, because as you're growing your account, you want to make sure that there's enough volume when you're trading 1,000, 2,000, maybe 10,000 shares. Yeah, want to make sure that you're not moving the markets. And so, in addition to volume and volatility, you see, I personally prefer stocks with trends, because we want to see that at least there are some short trends that we can take advantage of. See, because this is where I personally cannot pick bottoms and tops. This is where I want to find this. So, Juliet, you're clarifying here, and I really appreciate it. So, Juliet said, here's my problem. So, let's just describe the problem, because that's also great. When you can describe the problem, you find a solution for this. So, Juliet says the stock is on the move, and you got the wrong entry and exit. So this is what Juliet said her problem is. Does this apply to any of you? I just want to make sure that we are also addressing here everything, but I believe what Juliet is asking here might apply to many of you. And it doesn't matter whether it's stock or a futures market, right? I mean, you probably have seen it. Oh my gosh, the market is on the move, and you are just not participating, right? I mean, does this sound familiar? Say yes if this sounds familiar. All right, I see quite a few. I see quite a few yeses. Okay, so the stock is on the move. So here, good questions to ask. Okay, is first of all, how do I identify the move when it happens. Now, keep in mind, the reason why I say when it happens is you won't be able to predict a move. I mean, it's extremely challenging to predict a move, but once a stock starts moving or a market starts moving, it's easy to recognize it. So let me use here the S&P as an example right here, okay? As you can see, and I'm hiding this here for a minute so that I can draw a little bit on the chart. As you see, the markets have been sideways in a while, and then they started breaking out. Okay, so when they break out, what you want to do here is obviously you want to find a way to enter somewhere here and then exit a little bit later, because you won't be able to capture tops and bottoms. Okay, so one of the important things here is how to identify a move when it happens. Or how do I recognize when a stock is breaking out? So this is a really great question. So these are questions that you should ask yourself. Do you have a strategy that you identify when the move is happening? Now, what I personally like to do is I like to look at the upper Bollinger Band. When the upper Bollinger Band starts pointing up in a nice 45-degree angle or steeper, and prices are touching the upper Bollinger Band, now I am in an up move. Now, the second thing that I like to see is that the RSI is above 70. So when the RSI is above 70, I'm plotting these green triangles on the chart. This is showing me that we are in a strong uptrend. So these are just two things that I personally like to do. Now, there's also the MACD. I like to take a look at the MACD, and when the MACD is above the zero line and above its signal line, I'm coloring the bars green. Now, when these criteria are met, that I have green bars and green triangles, this means to me that now a stock is on the move. So this is where let's use another example here in crude oil. So as you can see, crude oil also has been going sideways here for a while. Okay, Juliet and everybody else. Then we started to go up, and we see that there's a few bars that do have green triangles and green bars. But the move stops right here. Then we have another quick move up, and then again the market is going sideways. Okay, and now we had another move up, and the market is going sideways. So it's a stair-stepping market. So first of all, this is where it goes back to, Juliet, do you have a reliable way to identify when the move has happened? Because when you do, the next thing here is then saying, okay, when exactly do I enter? Okay, and this is where you need to have very clear-cut rules. And this is another great question that you can ask yourself, or that I can help you answer, right? When exactly do you enter? And another thing is, are there any warning signals that the stock might not move, right? You want to ask you also this, because this is where we go to filters and say, should we apply some filters and say, you know what? This is why, for example, I do not like to trade after 10:30 or after 11 Eastern time, because usually this is when the market is choppy. Okay, so when the stock might not move. Filters and possible filters here are trading times, for example. You might notice that stocks move nicely in the morning, but then after that, they usually, after the first hour or 2 hours, the stock are usually going sideways. So this is where trading times might be a good filter, or any other filters, right? So this is where maybe another indicator tells you when to stay out. Okay, if another indicator or another time frame tells you to stay out, that would be good. But you see, this is all going back to the question, when exactly do I enter? But you only should ask this question after you're able to identify a move when it happens. Now, the third question then is that you can ask yourself, or me, or us here, doesn't really matter, right? Is, when exactly do I exit? Okay, and when it comes to exit, you have several ways to exit. You can use a profit target, right? You want to make sure that you apply a stop loss. You want to make sure that you get out when the stock is going sideways. Okay, and if you want, you could also use a trailing stop. If you want, you could also say that you're doing some position management, saying that maybe you get out with 1/3 when you hit your first profit target, and then you get out with another third when you hit a second profit target, and then you do a third when you for using a trailing stop. So you could do this, but this is where again you got to see when exactly does the stock move and when does it stop moving. And you see, for us, it means when the upper Bollinger Band starts to turn around and is going flat, and when the RSI is dropping below 70. This is usually indicating that the markets are going sideways. So this is when definitely you want to exit there. Hopefully, you want to also make sure that you're taking profits before this happens, and you want to make sure that your stop loss is large enough that you see, if you have a market like this, like crude oil here, where it moves up, retraces a little bit, moves up, retraces a little bit, moves up, and retraces a little bit. As you can see, you have a beautiful, beautiful trend line here. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you're applying a stop loss that is large enough. So now, for these, you can ask some other questions. Yeah. So for example, for the profit target, you can say, okay, when should I take money off the table? Exactly. For the stop loss is, how much do I have to risk for this market? Okay, which again depends on the market and depends on the stock. More volatile stocks that we talked about earlier require probably a larger stop loss. And this is why I personally like to use stop losses based on the average daily range, right? So, so again, what I'm doing here, Juliet, is really drilling down, because you said you started with struggling with exits and entries, which was a statement. And this is when you said, okay, you wanted to know how to choose an entry and exit. And this is where I said, let's go one step back and let's make sure that you find the best stocks for day trading, which has volatility, volume, and trends. See, let's just assume this here in the upper left is a stock, and this here is another stock, crude oil. Which of these, if you see that this is a typical behavior of the stock, which one would you prefer to trade? This one or this one? Right? There's no right answer. I mean, it's personal preference. This is why it's so important that you just find the markets that you're comfortable with. So I personally like to day trade the futures markets. And when it comes to day trading, I like crude oil and I like the NASDAQ. Now, for swing trading, this is where I like to use stocks that my software, the PowerX Analyzer, tells me, right? Because this is the PowerX strategy. I believe in this strategy. I've been trading it for a long time. I know that this strategy works. So this is the strategy that I'm using. But Juliet, does this help you to see, okay, this is the big picture. These are the questions that you need to ask yourself and that you need to ask me. And you see, when you ask yourself these questions, you will probably see you have the answer to some of the questions, and for answers to other questions, you might need help. And this is what we are here for. This is why we are doing this coffee with Markus, that you can ask us the question. And I just used Juliet here as an example, but it applies to all of you, right? So the better the question, the better the answer, right? Because if you just ask a general question and say, how do I make money in the markets? I can tell you, you know what, sell low, buy low and sell higher. Okay, so I mean, it's that easy. So this is where we need to drill down and say, okay, what exactly is the problem? And sometimes it helps to define the problem before we ask questions. And Juliet, this is why I appreciate that you said, okay, my problem, here's my problem. The stock is on the move and you got the wrong entry and exit. And you see, there's also so many questions that you can ask about here. Why is the stock on the move, right? What do you mean by wrong entry? Did you enter too early or did you enter too late? What do you mean by exit? Did you get stopped out too early? do you need to give the trade more room, or did the trade move in your favor and then turned around so you did not take profits at the right time? You see, this is such a loaded statement, and you need to make sure that you're getting crystal clear in your communication, and that you need to make sure, all right, here is what I need to know. Now, Juliet, you're clarifying here the exit is too early. Okay, fantastic. So exit too early means that you left money on the table. Now, keep in mind, when you're exiting a stock, you're either exiting too early or too late. But one of the things that you could possibly do is apply some position management and say, you know what, I'm taking half of the position off, or a third of the position, when it hits my first profit target. Then I move my stop loss to break even, and I'd apply a trailing stop for the remaining of the position. See, Juliet, does this make sense? Because now we are drilling down, and now it seems, okay, your real problem is the exit. You exited too early. So let's focus on when exactly do I exit? Because it seems that you caught a good move, right? So you found a stock that is on the move. It seems that you made a good entry, but it seems that then you exited too early. So now we can drill down and focus on exactly this. Is this making sense? All right. So I appreciate the questions that you asked here. And this is why we are here. Ask great questions, and then we can give you targeted answers. All right, good. I hope that helps. And we will continue answering your questions and help you to become the trader you want to be in the next Coffees with Markus. So for today, that is it. And we'll be back here tomorrow morning. All right. You have a great day, and I hope that you make lots of money. And I'll post the notes here and the recording in our member section, and you all have access to this, so no worries. Okay, have a terrific day. Bye-bye.